Are you about to pick up new baby chicks, or have you just brought them home? Join me as I share my experiences on raising chicks during the first weeks. When you're a first-time chicken owner, it's important to know how to care for these creatures during their early weeks of life. In this video, we'll take you through some of the things you can expect while raising happy, healthy baby chicks. For example, how do you know when your chicks are old enough to go outside? I'll answer that in just a few minutes. If you're a beginner and you want more details of the items you'll need to get started, check out my other video here and linked in the description below. Newly hatched chicks need warmth and protection. At this early age of only hours and days old, they're fluffy bundles of downy cuteness, smaller than a tennis ball. They will have a few wing feathers and move around quite easily, but they are fragile and vulnerable. Keeping them in a brooder contains them and protects them from injuries, drafts, predators, and themselves. During the first week of their lives, baby chicks will spend most of their time eating, drinking, sleeping, and exploring their brooder. It's important to provide them with access to fresh water and chick starter feed at all times. You'll need to keep the temperature in the brooder around 95 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 to 38 degrees Celsius with a brooder lamp or heat plate. I prefer a heat plate. There's less risk of fires. You can also use a thermometer to monitor temperatures to ensure it stays within the appropriate range. But the chicks will either crowd around the heat source or space themselves away from it. They know what they need, and they will chirp loudly to let you know if there is a problem. Additionally, it's important to keep the brooder clean by changing out their bedding often to prevent the buildup of harmful bacteria. I like to use dog training pads for the first week because they're absorbent and not slippery under the tiny bird feet. I don't use shavings during this first week because I want the chicks to learn to recognize their food. Week 2. By the second week, your chicks will have grown considerably and will start developing their wing feathers. You may notice some tail feather development, but this may vary depending on the breed and gender of your chicks. They will also become more active and begin jumping and flapping their wings. Handle your birds often so they become relaxed with you as they age. These early days are part of the bonding process. Keep a calm energy and start by just laying your hand in the brooder until they relax. Then work on tickling their bellies and scooping them up from below. They are instinctively frightened of aerial attack, so coming at them from above will set them into a frenzy. During this time, you can gradually lower the temperature in the brooder by around 5 degrees Fahrenheit or 2.8 degrees Celsius each week. This can be done by raising the lamp or brooder plate. This will encourage them to start regulating their own body temperature. At this time, I add large flake pine shavings as bedding. These help with odors as they're somewhat absorbent with the feces and urine. You can also introduce treats like fruits, vegetables, and mealworm, but be sure to give them in moderation and make sure they still have access to their chick starter feed and plenty of fresh water. Avoid giving the baby chicks any nightshade plants such as tomato, potato, and peppers. I also avoid avocado and any kind of beans. Feel free to give them small amounts of apples, berries, mango, carrots, squash, lettuce, broccoli, or whatever you have handy. Week 3. By week 3, your chicks will have developed their primary feathers and will look like miniature versions of their adult selves. They may look like they have entered their awkward teenage phase. They'll continue to grow and become more independent, but they still need to be kept warm around 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 to 29 degrees Celsius. During this time, you can introduce a roosting bar to their brooder to encourage perching behavior. They'll do it anyways. You can also start offering grit to help them digest their food more efficiently. Continue with the fresh water, chick starter feed, and fresh fruit and vegetables. At this point, I also start mealworm training my chicks. We buy bags of mealworms by subscription through Amazon that is sent to us on a frequency that we desire. When I'm giving the chicks mealworms, I shake the bag so they become familiar with the sight and the sound of this treat. I have the adults trained so I can move them across the property just by leading them with the feed bag. I will link our short video above and in the description below so you can have a laugh at that process. During this week, you can also start taking your chicks outdoors in a supervised and contained area. I put them on grass with a chicken wire enclosure that I just improvise with step-in posts or garden stakes. This allows them to be acclimated to the breeze and weather. It also starts introducing them to the dirt that they will be exposed to full time in just a week or two. It's important to monitor their behavior closely during this stage to ensure they're not getting too crowded in the brooder. They can start with aggressive and fighting behaviors if they're feeling crowded and need to establish dominance. Week 4. By the 4th week, your chicks will be nearly fully feathered and will no longer require supplemental heat. Some breeds will be ready to go outside full time. A standard breed chick will now be about the size of a toy football. You may be able to see wattles and comb development, and a definite pecking order is being established. They'll be more active and curious, so it's important to make sure they have enough space to move around. You can start transitioning them to a larger coop or run outside, but make sure it's fully enclosed and protected from predators. Mine have always tried jumping out of their brooder container at this age, and it will require a top of some type, but not something that blocks out light. And here's the detail you need to know about when your chicks can go outside to their coop permanently. If the weather is suitable and the chicks are fully feathered out with no more soft fuzzy down, they can go to their coop. We have had great success with getting our chickens to put themselves back into the brooder at dusk with this one simple trick. When we first put them to the coop, we keep them locked in for 3 or 4 days. This establishes the brooder as a safe place to sleep. It's important to keep a close eye on their behavior during this time to ensure they're adapting well to their new environment. Weather conditions during this week can potentially affect them in ways we don't expect. Raising baby chicks can be a rewarding and enjoyable experience. By following these simple guidelines and giving your chicks the care and attention they need, you'll be well on your way to raising healthy and happy chicks. Remember to monitor their behavior closely during each stage of development and adjust their care as needed. With proper care and attention, your baby chicks will grow into happy, healthy adult chickens. Now, just to wait for a few months for the eggs to come.